Everything I'm about to share with you in this video comes from years of screwing things up while traveling. If there are issues out there, it's happened to me. Missed flights, lost bags, border issues, getting scammed, I've seen it. And in this video, I'll share with you my top travel tips. And if you stick around to the very end, I'll share with you my most important travel tip. All right, let's get into it. All right, so let's begin here. And the first point is you want to check your passport validity. How long until your passport expires? And this might sound obvious, but this just happened to me like 2 years ago. I was entering Roatan, Honduras, and my passport had like 4 months left. And many countries have a rule where your passport has to be active for the next like 6 months to enter the country. And they gave me a warning and almost didn't let me into the country. So this is a real issue out there. So you want to check how long your passport lasts for. Point number 2, you want to check the visa regulations for entry into the country you're going to. This might sound obvious, but I've made this mistake in the past as well. Back when I was younger in 2005, I was doing like the Southeast Asia circuit from Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, Singapore, and into Indonesia. I just assumed that I could show up in Jakarta, Indonesia with no issues as a Canadian, and that wasn't the case. And they gave me a really hard time, and I had to basically bribe the customs officials to get into the country back then. So make sure that you're checking the visa entry regulations for the country you're going to, because it could disrupt your entire trip, and it would be a giant hassle if you're flying across the world and you can't get into the country. So make sure that you understand the rules of entry. And related to the last point is that you want to understand how long does your visa last in the country. And I'll give you a good example. I was just in the Philippines about a month or so back, and I went to the island of Palawan. Now, as a Canadian, you can arrive in the Philippines and get a visa on arrival for 1 month. But other countries, not the same case. If you're, say, Chinese, they give you like a week visa, and you have to renew it after that time period. And you could be on an island, say, like Palawan, where they have the visa office in Puerto Princesa, but not in El Nido or Coron. So it could disrupt the flow of your trip if you didn't know this beforehand. Next point. Now, this hasn't happened to me yet, but some countries require certain vaccinations or they won't let you into the country. So depending on where you're going, you want to make sure that you have the necessary vaccinations. Otherwise, it might cut your trip very short and it won't be too much fun for you. So make sure that you understand where you're going and the requirements in terms of vaccinations. And the last 2 points on long-term preparation is you want to get some kind of travel insurance. You never know what can happen out there. If you do enough travel, you'll come across tourists that have they're bandaged up or they've got like slings and casts and stuff like that. So you never know what can happen. So you want to have some kind of travel insurance. I personally use Safety Wing. I've got a link in the description for you. And for my scuba diving trips, I use Divers Alert Network, or DAN, is a very popular insurance for scuba divers. So basically, you never know what can happen. And the last tip when it comes to long-term planning is obviously you want to research the flights. I use Skyscanner and Google Flights. I think that's the easiest way to research them. If you're flying at a very busy time, or if that's your plan, book the flight well in advance because it is a bit cheaper. And I like to research the flight on Google Flights because it shows you if the plane has like the video screen on the seat back. It sucks when you're flying and there's no video screen. It makes the trip so much longer. And you can actually see that information on Google Flights. And moving along, let's talk about some of the digital and tech preparation. And the first one here is you want to back up your phone when you're at home because you never know what can happen. Just 2 years ago, I was in Roatan and I was dumb and I went to the pool with my cell phone in my pocket and I ruined it. And if your phone wasn't backed up, you can lose all that information. So it's a simple thing. You plug your phone into your computer and back it up before you travel. It can save you some headache down the road. Next point is you want to clean up your phone before traveling. Just on my recent trip in the Philippines, I actually ran out of storage on my phone. I was taking photos and videos, and sometimes they were in 4K. It takes up a lot of space, and it sucks when you're traveling. You want to have all these memories, and your phone is, you've got no memory left. So I find a good time to do this is actually on the plane. I go through all my photos and I delete all the stuff I don't want, and it saves you a lot of space. So make sure that your phone has enough space for your trip. Just kind of like a simple tip like that. I also like to download offline maps and save them onto my phone before I fly somewhere. Because when you land, you typically don't have Wi-Fi. The airport Wi-Fi is spotty in most places, and it's good to know kind of where you're going. So I like to have offline maps downloaded to my phone before I go somewhere. And you can do that with Google Maps or like the iPhone Maps too. You'll want to get a universal power adapter. So not every country uses the same electrical outlets. Europe is different than North America, and so on. So you want to have an adapter that can be plugged in anywhere. that also has different USB slots. It's actually quite convenient to have these. They're not too expensive. I think I paid like $10 for mine on Amazon, and it works all over the world. So it's a very convenient thing to have. And some older hotels don't have that many electrical outlets. So you want to have something like this that you can plug in and connect all of your accessories like your iPhone cord, laptop cord. It just makes things a lot easier if you have one of these devices. And you might also want to have a power bank with you. This is very handy because sometimes when you're flying, you're on your phone the entire time. You could be watching movies on your phone. You could be going through your phone, deleting all the photos like I mentioned. And you could arrive in your destination and have no power left on your iPhone. And sometimes you'll actually need it to have power. I've gone through customs where they ask you to like point out or show them where the hotel is. And if your phone's dead, you can't do that. So it's good to have some power left when you arrive in your country. And maybe you're using Uber or Grab for like a cab from the airport to your hotel. So it's a good idea to have a power bank just as like a backup, as an emergency. Now this sounds obvious, but definitely bring the charging cords with you. I've done this where I've had my iPhone, but I forgot the cord, or I packed the cord in my suitcase. So you want to have like at least some kind of cord with you on your carry-on. And this point is something I just started doing, is usually I carry like a MacBook with me, and they're so expensive these days, and I'm kind of worried it's going to get stolen or damaged when I'm flying. So I bought an Amazon Fire tablet. They're only like a couple $100 compared to like $3,000 for a MacBook. And I use this for traveling because I'm only typically like booking hotels or watching movies or the odd email here and there. And I just have, it's more peace of mind having a Fire tablet versus the MacBook because it's just so much cheaper. And if it gets damaged or lost, I'm not going to worry too much about it. And one of my kind of hacks when traveling is just tons of sitting around. Like you're in the airports, you're connecting, you're on vans, long flights. I like to bring a Nintendo Switch with me. I mean, it might sound childish, but it's actually a good way to kill time. You know, playing Mario Brothers on your Nintendo Switch on a long haul flight. It actually is a good way to pass the time. And I think it's a very valuable piece of carry-on luggage. I also like to bring both wired and a wireless headset. I use the wireless most of the time, but I've been on flights where they don't actually give you a headset or they make you pay for it. So I have a wired headset that I just kind of scrunch up and put in my side pocket. It takes up no space at all, and it's decent quality, and I use that to plug into the airplane audio jack. And the last point is you want to download any kind of apps that are specific to that country in advance. A good example is in the Philippines, they use Grab instead of Uber. So you might want to set that up and input your credit card information, make sure it's working before you arrive. It just makes it a little bit easier that way. Next point is hotels and flight information, or booking your flight. And I've already talked about booking your flight early and using Google Flights to see if your plane has the seatback video system. Other tips regarding flying is I would not book your seat near the bathroom. It's just a pain because people are always bumping into you. They're standing up next to you the entire time, and just kind of loud and noisy. It's just kind of annoying being near the bathroom. And for long haul flights, I recommend picking the aisle seat just because you can walk around, you can get up and stretch. You're not bugging the people next to you to get up and go to the bathroom. So I just find it's a little bit easier to pick the aisle seat. Now, when you're booking your flight, the airlines, they want to make you pick each destination. For short flights, I don't really care where I sit. So for example, like Calgary to Manila, it's Calgary to Vancouver first. That's like an hour flight. I don't care where I sit. It could be in the middle, the window, or the aisle. But for the long haul flights, I always pick the aisle seat. And it just makes things so much easier when you can walk around and stretch without bugging people. And in terms of flight connections, my golden rule, it has to be 2 hours minimum or else I won't book it. It's just too stressful. The plane could be late, there could be weather delays, there could be issues in security or getting your baggage. Your bags don't always go to the final destination. You have to clear customs again and go through that whole process. And it just could be too stressful if you only have like an hour to do this. And in some airports, like say Manila, the terminals are actually, they're not connected. There's like a bus ride between them. And that could take like 30, 45 minutes sometimes to actually go through that process. So I think it has to be 2 hours minimum or else I'm not doing it. So I think this has saved me quite a few times. And it can be very stressful if you only have like 30 minutes and you're sitting in the plane still, waiting for people to actually disembark. And just very stressful. I just recommend 2 hours minimum. And in terms of hotels, I will always book the first place I'm staying at in advance, just a little bit easier that way. But I don't book every single hotel during my entire trip, just because you might want to stay longer in some places. And if you have your entire trip kind of booked in advance, it's just kind of restrictive in my opinion. So I'm okay just booking the first hotel then seeing how it goes from there. Next point, let's talk about travel administration, money, and stuff like that. So you want to encrypt your important documents. So you might want to take photos of like your passport, IDs, banking information. I like to put it into a PDF and encrypt it. So I have the password, no one can just open it up. And then I store that on the cloud. I'll use like Google Drive. So in case you lose everything, you can access this information easily. And it's a very a safe way to do it. I will also print off documents like this and just give them to my mom. And in case something goes wrong, I can call her up and she has copies of all my information. Now, in terms of flight and hotel information, I'm kind of old-fashioned, and I like to print them off. And what I do is I have like a neoprene kind of laptop case, and I put them on top of my laptop in the case, so it forms like a flat surface. They don't get all scrunched up, and that's kind of where I put all my old-fashioned paperwork for flights and hotels. And also screenshot certain things like e-visas for the Philippines, flight information, hotel information, map information as well. I'll just kind of screenshot on my phone so I have it handy. I'll also get a business card from the hotel and I'll put that in my wallet, and I'll actually screenshot the surrounding area of the hotel in case I get lost. Now, I've been so lost in the past in places like Kyoto, and I kind of wandered around for hours trying to find my hotel. So I would definitely screenshot the address of the hotel and keep it handy, because you never know. Sometimes you're in a foreign country, everything looks kind of similar, and you can get easily lost. And in terms of cards and money, I think it's a good idea to have multiple credit cards and keep them in different spots, like one in my backpack, one in my wallet. Same thing with money. I keep some in my wallet, some in my backpack. And just in case you lose one or one gets stolen, you have a backup. And I just think it's a safe way to travel. So you'll want to keep your cash and cards separated, so if you lose one, you don't lose everything. And the last point here, when you're traveling somewhere, research if it's a cash or a credit card or debit card destination. So for example, in Canada, I hardly ever use cash here. It's all Interact or credit cards. If you go to a place like the Philippines, it's all cash, like wherever you go. You can book the odd hotel here and there with the credit card, but it's almost cash everywhere. So it just depends where you're going. You don't want to bring a huge wad of cash if you're going to a place like England or Canada. You're probably not going to use it. And moving along, the next section is medical tips. So you want to have like a travel-sized medical kit. I've never actually had to use this, but it's a good idea to have one. And bring things like nail clippers, tweezers, those are quite handy. Headache pills, you're on vacation, you could be drinking, you get hungover. Definitely bring diarrhea medication. Basically, anyone who's traveled, you will eventually get traveler's diarrhea, and it's not fun. So you just buy those like Imodium pills. That's quite handy. I've taken the Dukoral vaccine in the past, and that helps prevent issues like this. And way back in like 2003, I was in the army in Canada. I got sent over to Bosnia, and my allergies were so bad there, I almost got sent home. So research the destination that you're going to and make sure that you have any kind of allergy medication. If you're coming here to Calgary, where I live, in like say April, like the pollen allergies are pretty crazy at that time of year. So it definitely helps to have pills like that. And other common sense things is you want to avoid drinking the tap water. Basically, I never drink the tap water unless I'm in Canada or the USA or places like that. Everywhere else, I just use bottled water. Just protect yourself. And the next point here is that you want to eat where the locals are eating. So the basic idea, if you're somewhere like Southeast Asia and you go to a restaurant that's kind of dead, there's a good chance the food's kind of sitting around for a while and it might be collecting germs. But if you go to a busy place, first of all, the locals know what's good. It's busy for a reason. And there's less chance of the food kind of sitting around and collecting germs. That's another reason why you should always go to like a busy place, especially in areas like Southeast Asia. And my last tip on health, and I swear by this, if you're going on a big trip, I would avoid drinking alcohol the day or the night before you're traveling somewhere. I've been hungover in the past, going from like say Cambodia to Thailand, and when you're in some van and it's just a horrible experience if you're really hungover and it's a long day. You could spend hours in customs with a booming headache. So my tip is I never drink alcohol before I'm traveling somewhere. And moving along to the next section, travel packing tips. So you're going to want to have a suitcase and a backpack. Some trips are better for suitcases, some are better for backpacks. For example, if you're going to, say, Cancun, Mexico on an all-inclusive, that's definitely a suitcase trip. You're in one destination. But if you're going somewhere like, say, Europe or Southeast Asia and you're going to multiple countries, I would recommend a backpack for that trip. Just because you could be going into cabs, tricycles, ferries, different planes, it might be a little bit easier to have a backpack versus lugging around a suitcase for a trip like that. And pack fewer clothes than what you think you need. It's quite easy to do laundry when you're traveling, and you want to leave room for souvenirs, so don't pack so much that you're kind of bogged down. And you want to weigh your luggage and make sure it kind of fits the criteria for carry-on. I see it quite often, people trying to cram their carry-on into those sizing devices, or they have to reshuffle their bags to move things around so it's not overweight. It's just a real pain to do that at the actual airport versus at home. And I recommend one of those luggage hooks that you can weigh your luggage with before actually leaving for the airport. And if you do carry on all your toiletries, be careful because sometimes they restrict the size of different things like, say, sunscreen or aerosols. I've had it where they've taken my shaving gel and my sunscreen. So if you are traveling, make sure you have like the travel size toiletries in your carry-on. It just makes things a little bit easier that way. And for tropical destinations, I would avoid bringing jeans. They're very bulky, they take up lots of room in your suitcase, and they take forever to dry as well. So I'd recommend buying like cargo pants that you can wear on the plane, that when you arrive in like a hotter destination, you can unzip the pants of them and they become shorts. And they're more lightweight, so they're more practical. You actually use them on the trip versus jeans where they kind of sit in your bag the entire time. And I just think they're more practical than wearing jeans. And the next section is what to do before leaving for the airport. Now, I like to clean my entire place before flying somewhere, like the night before. Nothing is worse than arriving back home and your place is messy. I also like to get a haircut to the day before I fly somewhere, just so that you look your best when you're traveling. And I would always recommend to turn the water line off in your property before flying on a big trip. This happened to me 2 years ago. I was in the Philippines, and it gets very cold in Calgary, Canada. As you can see out back, it's snowing. It gets cold enough here where the water lines can actually burst. And this happened to me while I was in the Philippines. And there's a huge amount of damage and insurance issues. It's just a giant headache. So whenever you fly somewhere, I'd recommend turning the water line off to your property. For those people who are in sales or in business, when you're traveling somewhere, I think it's a good idea to have like an autoresponder set up for your email and your phone, just so when clients call you or email you, they know that you're going to be away for a few weeks. There's a time zone change, and don't expect like an immediate reply. This can help for people who are in business. Now, I've already talked about not booking seats near the bathroom. I prefer the aisle seat. I'd also recommend eating very light. So when you're flying, I've heard that the gas in your body expands by like 30%. And this is why you can feel a bit bloated on like long haul flights. So I would eat very light. I would avoid carbonated beverages. You might be a bit more comfortable. Now for short flights, this is not such a big deal, but if you're doing like a 13-hour flight, I would definitely eat light, avoid carbs and carbonated beverages if you can. I think you'll be a bit more comfortable that way. And the last point here is you want to give yourself lots of time to get to the airport and go through security. I recommend at least 2 hours. Now, this just happened to me about a month ago. I was in Coron, Philippines. I'm flying to Manila to catch a flight back to Canada. And the taxi cab driver who I arranged the night before was actually 50 minutes late picking me up to go to the airport. And so things like this can happen. Cabbies can be late. So you could have like traffic issues. You could have long lineups in security and baggage and whatnot. So give yourself lots of time. I recommend having at least 2 hours in the airport. Might be excessive, but I think that's a good rule of thumb for most destinations. Now, the next point here, now this is a big one for me. I would always recommend booking your flight so that it arrives in the destination in the evening, like say 7 or 8 p.m. It takes some time to get off the plane, go through customs, get your bags, take a cab to your hotel. And by that time, it's time for bed. Now, why this is important is that there could be a huge time zone change from your origin to your destination. Like say Canada to Southeast Asia, it's like 15-hour time zone change, plus like a 15-hour flight. It really messes you up. So I take a sleeping pill and I go to bed right away. I have no plans for the next day. And this is kind of a way to kind of hack the jet lag process, because you can have a good night's rest, then you're kind of on their time zone already. It'll still take you a few days to get used to it, but this is one way to kind of make it easier. Now, I've had it where I've landed in Manila at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I gave in and took a nap around lunchtime, around noon, and I woke up at midnight. In the next like 4 to 5 days, I was completely messed up because I did this. So it's always a good idea to arrive in the evening. It just helps you fight jet lag. And another tip here is when you arrive in your destination, have like a rough idea how much it should cost to go from the airport to your destination. So for example, I arrived in Manila last month, and they tried to charge me 1,800 pesos to go from the airport to my hotel, but it was actually only like a 300 peso trip. So all over the world, people will try to scam you at the airport. So I have a rough idea how much it should cost. And for most of my trips, my first day there, I just have it as like a chill day. I don't plan too much just because you could be fighting off jet lag. So it's kind of like just a relaxing, getting used to the area day for me. And the last section, this is on kind of general travel tips I've learned over the years. And the first point here is ask the locals where to eat. Now, odds are they're not going to tell you to eat like the tourist trap areas. They will know what's good. It's going to be a lot better and probably a lot cheaper. I would try to blend in and don't look so touristy. So like in the days before like iPhones, there was like the Lonely Planet maps that I would pull out and I kind of crumple them up and like into like a little square, so I could look at the map and not look like a huge tourist. Like, so things like that. Just try to blend in a little bit and don't look so touristy because you don't want to be a target. And just use your common sense here. And the next point is you want to research the basic scams for that destination. So every country has some kind of scam going for it. For example, in Thailand, my first trip here was back in 2005. And I tried to book a tuk-tuk to one of the temples in Bangkok. And on the way to these temples, they just drop you off at like a suit store or a diamond shop or a ruby store. That's just part of how they do business there. It's kind of annoying. So make sure that you understand what you're getting yourself into. Make sure when you're getting into a cab, you've either negotiated the fare or you've agreed on the price beforehand. So this is a common scam all over the world, and they can take advantage of you. So be careful when you're dealing with cab drivers. I like to use Uber if you can, because it avoids that entire mess, or Grab in places like the Philippines. And when I'm in travel mode, I like to keep my wallet in my front pocket. And I like to wear shorts that have a zipper on the pocket, just to add an extra layer of security. It makes it harder to pickpocket it. And for busy areas like subways or like LRT lines, I like to keep my hand on my wallet in my pocket. So one hand in my pocket, one hand on the railing, just to protect yourself if it's a very busy destination. Like I can recall being in Manila on their MRT and you're packed like this, and it can be easy to get pickpocketed if your hand's not on your wallet. Use your common sense when it comes to ATMs. Like go to a bank if you're a bit nervous about it. Definitely go somewhere public that's well lit because there could be people watching you. Never had any issues myself, but this could definitely happen out there. So just use your common sense. And the last 2 points, it's okay to take rest days. Some people are so like, everything is structured so much that they're basically every second of their trip, they've got something going on. It's okay to take rest days and just do nothing for a day. Just sit by the pool or do nothing, watch movies, just kind of rest. And the very last point, and I think this is a big one, don't be the traveler that wants to see everything on one trip. So I'm talking about people who go to Europe and they see 20 countries in 5 days. You're basically in transit the entire time. That's not much fun. I think you're better off to see one country in more depth than see 10 and just kind of do like 1 day in each destination. I've kind of made this mistake on my first Southeast Asia trip where I wanted to go everywhere. I did Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. Sure, it was a fun trip, but I spent so much time in transit because I wanted to see so much. I think it's better to slow down and see one destination in more detail than seeing a whole bunch but see nothing, basically.